right, let's keep going.
George Montanaro, Los Gatos South Bay Market, also the sales manager of the Los Gatos Compass, and about 40 million.
Keep going.
Arthur Sharif, Sotheby's International Realty. I work in the Mid-Peninsula area. Last year, my production was a little bit over 52 million.
Rhonda, give us your responsibilities. Tell us what you do.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Munoz. I'm the mortgage sales manager for HSBC. I manage our Northern California and Washington sales team, so the loan officers that help a lot of your clients with their mortgage needs. Last year, if you look at our combined Northern California and Washington volume, we might have close to $1 billion.
And Nancy, your responsibility territory?
All right, I'm Nancy Robinson. I'm the Regional Vice President for Coldwell Banker, and I actually cover Burlingame down to Carmel, which we have about 1,800 agents in 26 offices.
All right. I'm going to stay with you. And panel, I want to address the 800-pound gorilla that's in the room. The question is there a damn correction about to take place? I'm going to start with you. Use a microphone. In tight, folks, if you open the mics.
Is there a correction about to happen? I think the correction's already begun. I think it began October of last year, and it's just been continuing. Earlier in the year, I think, especially at the beginning of the year, it was really slow, but it's picked up a little bit since then, and I expect it to continue on that pace into early next year.
Nancy, what about you? What are you picking up at
Is this
CB?
microphone loud enough?
Yeah, just talk
Yeah.
close.
Okay, I feel like I'm swallowing this microphone. Or, well, it's on my face.
That's good.
Okay. Yes, I agree. We're in the middle of correction, and it started last year, and we all have felt that. So it's still a fantastic market, though. So that correction is nothing to be afraid of, and it's actually something to embrace because it's certainly making our buyer clients a little bit more comfortable jumping into the vehicle.
Okay. What about George? What about you?
For sure, prices have taken a little bit of a softness. But I think that's really a good thing. I think we got rid of all that frothy, crazy 30, 40 offers. So is it really a market correction, or inventory is getting balanced?
But days on market, fewer multiples, listing price reductions. We're seeing that everywhere in San Francisco. Are you not facing that down here?
Oh, absolutely we are. But I've been doing this for 40 years, so when you tell me they're on the market for 30 days, and you had 2 offers, and your house sold, that's a pretty good market. So when you say the market is adjusting, from what? That's my 2 cents.
Good. Say it.
I think the correction from -2 days on the market to sell to about 20 days, the average 40 to 45 years we have correct. San Jose is following the same suit. I think it's a great market. It's challenging. Great agents will rise and will take market share from the part-timers. And I just got my license to buy another piece of real estate or help my cousin. It certainly has changed. It'll continue, in my opinion, I think, through the elections until the buyers get a peace of mind. The buyers right now are controlling it. There's a lot of uncertainty of what's to happen next year.
Truth time. Please don't lie to me. 2019, will you make as much money, you personally, will you make as much profit revenue in 19 as you did in 18? Or more?
I'm 2% higher today.
2% already.
Yeah, I think I'm up. Not a ton, but I'm up.
I'm well over 20% over last year.
Really?
I am.
And you attribute that to what?
I wasn't not as lazy as I was last year.
What are you doing, Nancy?
So what I'm seeing is exactly what these guys are saying, and I'm seeing our big teams and big agents getting even bigger. And I think what we're starting to see is sellers really carrying the name on the side of their yard. And but I still think if that you're a newer licensee and you're getting into this business, you just have to be more aggressive and scrappier than ever. And are you positioning yourself to play with the big dogs? But I do see these big agents getting even bigger. Congratulations. Sellers are really looking for the expertise in order to sell their homes. The days of hobbyists, in my opinion, are coming to a close.
Nancy, stay with you. I want to get inside consumer behavior, the buyer and the seller. How are they different today? What's happening to them? Are their expectations still as crazy as they were 2 years ago? What's the consumer mentality like for the business?
Well, what I definitely see happening is, with some of the new programs coming down the pipe, like a Compass Concierge or Baker just announced a Real Vitalize, I think sellers are demanding that more and more higher level service, right? They want the agent to do more for them. I think for a long time, I'm gonna say it, but they felt like we didn't do enough for the commission they were paying. And so they're going to demand us to do even more. And we started to see this way before any of these companies came out with seller, fronting the money kind of programs, right? We were starting to see agents having to make business decisions on how much am I going to invest in getting this listing? Am I going to throw in staging? Am I going to do, landscape work? Am I going to do this in order to get the listing? And I think agents who made that shift and made the investment to do those things are the ones that are really starting to thrive even more now. And then now companies have caught on to doing programs like this to help alleviate some of the burden onto agents. But I think the consumer behavior is that their expectations are higher than ever before on the level of service that you provide. They want you to do it all. And I think with buyers too, buyers are really looking at you and saying, are you savvy enough to get me the property, right? So it's not just, you have a pulse and you have a license and I'll use you, you'll get me that. They really want to know that you are in fact the person who's going to be aggressively negotiating and can project manage us and win the deal.
Now, Nancy, what's the level of confidence being a consumer? How are they thinking about the market? Are they in the mood to buy and sell?
I think they are, and I think that money's cheap right now, right? And that fact is making it an even better time to jump in.
So no diminution that you could see, no major diminution in their confidence?
I don't think so.
Say?
It definitely has changed.
How?
Buyers have been sitting on the sideline for a year and a half. Market is going down. 5% adjustment, 10% adjustment, we're about 17% adjustment. Aren't they saying it's going to go any lower? Now that's from a bird's eye view. H-1B visa problems, right? Interest rates are dropping. Why are they dropping? So they're asking all the right questions, right? Or the agent is actually preparing them to say, look, it's actually not a bad market. This is exactly what you asked for. You were praying for lower prices, lower interest rates. You can actually see the house twice, maybe 3 times before you put an offer. Right? So, but yet they're not acting. I think the buyers that are moving today, so I represented 107 buyer sides last year. They're pulling the trigger with hesitancy.
What does that mean?
That means if I buy today, is it going to go down 5%? So can you go get me that 5% and save your house? Let's go try it.
George, their level of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, it works both ways. I think, right, buyers are reading the doom and gloom. And they don't want to be the last one there and buy the last house for the highest price and going over the cliff. Unfortunately, our sellers still remember 2 years ago, and they don't quite realize their kitchen's dated, and they back up to the freeway, and they smell like cat urine. So they want top dollar, buyer rate is going down, and so we have this gap. And I think people misconceive the gap as there's no confidence in the market. I think is the gap that buyers do want to buy, they want to make sure they're buying smart. And they'll look more often, sometimes we have less patience, showing it 3 times or have contingencies and all that. And also again, our sellers should be more realistic. The buyer wants a fair deal, a good deal. And backing up the gas station with cat urine is going to be an issue.
So I think the best thing that's going on in the market right now are that sellers are getting a lot more realistic. Sellers have been the problem, not buyers. Buyers have always been there, and there's no shortage of buyers out there. Sellers have became too greedy, and they want everything. So now they're reading everywhere that, oh no, the market's changing. And so I'm loving having that conversation with people like, I hear the market is going down. I'm like, yes, it's going down. You need to do something right now. And then on the buyer side, I think that because the buyers have just become so skittish, unfortunately, I'm doing something that I'm not normally, that I'm not comfortable with, and that is to just push them through the door and say, you're going to buy this house, because the price is just like driving them crazy, but you have to let them know, like, listen, even though the prices are high, you're getting a cheaper mortgage, so it all balances out. Just buy the house, but what if it goes down? Don't sell it if it goes down.
I'm going to stay with you. What percent of your business is cash versus financed?
Because I sell a lot of high-end homes, probably about 70% of my business is cash.
Stay with you again. What percent of your business is MLS versus off-market?
A large majority of my business is MLS. I don't like to sell properties off the MLS because I think it shortchanges the seller. I like it to be on the MLS so everybody knows that it's a fair playing field.
Same question, George, to you. Cash versus financed, and then
Yeah, cash is about 20-25%, and mostly on the MLS. The same idea. You want exposure. You want to make sure everybody feels comfortable with the whole process. And cash is a misnomer sometimes. They'll say they'll pay cash, and you get a loan anyhow. So it's kind of 50-50.
to fill the amount, yeah. Zane?
15% cash,
I'm sorry.
15% cash,
1.5, yeah.
and all MLS.
You've got a lot of agents to deal with there, but what would be the center cut for you, Nancy? What do you think?
It's gonna completely depend by region.
Yeah, that's right.
Up on the peninsula, I see like about 35% all cash running as far as buyer sides running for us. What was this?
MLS versus
All
off-market?
And then again, that's super specific too, right?
Right.
You take an Atherton, and an Atherton's like 25% off market. So it's gonna really depend. You go further south into the Silicon Valley, and it's primarily MLS. So, you know, I'm a big believer too that the MLS is a vehicle to make sure that you're getting the complete market exposure. And I think that's one of the big changes we're gonna see coming into 2020 is that exposure is gonna be critical to make sure that you're getting maximum exposure for a seller's home.
Nancy, how do you respond? I think Sotheby's told me that in the city, they do 40% of their business off-market. Does that seem right?
It could be.
Could be, all right. Let me give you some, I wanted to ask you, you've got the money. So, what's lending like right now?
Well, we have $1.6 million over there, but if you have a chance to check it out. I think consumer confidence from our perspective is mixed. Earlier in the year, very, very slow. With the Fed easing with rates, obviously that's created a lot of new opportunity not only for people to buy, but even on the refinance side. There are still concerns relative to what's going on with the economy, related to the elections. You've got the trade wars going on. You've got the immigration issues as well too. So all of those are creating some stagnation within the market. But overall, I mean, now's the time. Rates are at record low. We're happy to help you in any way we can.
Back to Nancy. Nancy, when your agents deal with lenders, is it getting easier now vis-a-vis 3 or 4 years ago, or is it more difficult, or is it, what's it like dealing with the lenders?
I don't see anything getting simpler pertaining to lenders, and that's a good thing, right? I think lenders are being more, they are scrutinizing a file more and more. Are there alternative options out there that are popping up? Sure, right? We've all seen it in our emails, right? But overall, I think that we're not seeing massive change or easing up in lender criteria.
What about you, Arthur? What are you feeling in terms of the lenders? The lenders' willingness to open up a little bit and let the money speak and flow?
I think if we all know what, works and what doesn't work. And I think if you've been in this business long enough, you know somebody comes in and goes, I want 5% down or whatever. You need to do better than that. So I think it's your expectations. If your expectations are realistic, you should be able to get the deal done, especially if you know.
So it's neither more difficult.
No. I think actually, if anything, it has in the last couple of years gone a little bit better.
George, any comments?
I absolutely agree. We went from the, if you're flogging like Mary, you've got a loan, to you'll never get a loan no matter who you are. And now it's pretty realistic. I mean, you gotta have some money, you gotta pay some bills, and you've got a loan.
I think it's consistent in the past 3-4 years. Different banks, they raised the bar, they lowered the bar. Wells Fargo was lending up to 1.2. Now San Francisco County and Santa Clara County, now to $1 million and we put down 10%. So it really depends on the bank. And Wells Fargo drops it, the other bank will pick it up, so it's really irrelevant.
Gotcha. We're going to get into South Bay specifically, but I just one more question, just to sort of generically speaking. I'm going to give you some factors that we're experiencing right now. This is the list I made. There's a good economy right now, if you believe the Wall Street Journal. We had the 2017 tax changes, the reduction in SALT, right down to 10,000. You got low interest rates right now to 2 and change, 3 and change. Stock market volatility, it's varying 400 points, 300, it's all over the place. The 2020 elections, Donald Trump, Ukraine, impeachment, immigration policy, HB visas, all that stuff, is that affecting your market? Yes or no?
God, I just need a drink. Listen.
That's why but your consumers are exposed to this.
I mean, absolutely true. They hear all this. It's a lot of noise, and the biggest frustration is the instability of it all. Bad news is okay; you can deal with it. When you don't know what the news is going to be until the next morning, and we're in war, not war, whatever your politics are, that's the difficult part. I think our job is to try to calm our mind. But we, the traffic here is packed. We're in a Tesla showroom.
George, my question is, all this stuff, it's constant. It's on CNN, MSNBC, and top. Is this having an impact upon the decision to list or buy?
Yes. Yes.
Nancy?
It's funny because I, in my head, just said no when you all said yes. And the fact of the matter is I think that we still have an we have to be positive. We have to be the bellwethers of positivity out there for our clients. The fact of the matter is we're still an extremely healthy job market here in the Silicon Valley, right? The fact of the matter is interest rates are still incredibly low, and inventory is down, but it's not impossible.
So is that a no impact?
I really don't see it as a significant impact.
That's fine. I'm not making an argument, I'm just asking the question,
Yeah.
saying.
I think it goes back to the point that the buyers are buying with hesitation. They're saying, what's ahead of us? It definitely is impacting some decisions. I think it's really for us to talk to the seller and say, this may be the time before the elections. So it's getting a little easier to list today versus March. Versus the buyers, they're saying, should I wait until March? Right?
But when push comes to shove, you can't push them over the line, yes?
Well, that's where I'm a professional.
So, to Nancy's point, and she's totally right. Oftentimes, well, first of all, there's an expression, real estate is local. And so, I think people think more locally when it comes to real estate. One of the things that I think I need to say is there's a lot of San Francisco kind of mentality here. And that is that when we cringe when somebody says South Bay, when describing Burlingame to Los Gatos, it's like saying Frisco, that's not good. So the Mid-Peninsula is, around Stanford, and we have the north area, and then we have the South Bay. So those three markets are doing incredibly differently. In a city like Burlingame, which has about 30-something thousand people, there are probably about 30 homes on the market today. Menlo Park, same number of people live here. There are 81 homes on the market. Los Gatos has about 36,000 people. There are over 120 homes on the market. So those are that's the focus that we need to have, how local it is. So even though we are looked at as one area, we are three different areas.
Let's get into the South Bay, if we can, all right? I'm going to give you 3 price points, 3 listing points. 2 and under, 3 to 10, 10 plus. So let's start with the low end, 2 and under. What's the market like? Anyway, jump in, guys. No.
I think I'm the lowest end out of all of you. San Jose.
Sorry?
San Jose.
But if it's listed at 2 or under, is it moving?
Well, it goes to his point, it depends, exactly. It depends on the zip code now, it depends if it's closer to the jobs, it depends if it has good schools or not. It all depends. So I would say if you come to Los Gatos, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, San Jose, 2 and above is kind of city.
It's kind of
City.
anybody else?
Well, I think under $1 million though is
It's on
moving.
fire.
It's on fire, right? And then, and it's also, you can go to a zip code and it depends on the tiny neighborhood. It is so micro market right now. And that's where it really takes a local expert to dissect what is happening in each individual city or neighborhood. But yeah, I think under 2 million, Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County, and San Mateo County, red hot.
Arthur?
In the 7 towns around the Stanford, Menlo Park, Los Altos, Atherton, Palo Alto, Portola Valley, Woodside, if it's 2 million and under, your first thing you're looking at is, what's wrong?
So that means what?
That means there's something wrong with the house that is so cheap, right?
So we can sit.
It'll sell right away.
It'll sell right away, okay. George, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, exactly, it is local, it's school district driven. I mean, Los Gatos, Saratoga, in the Los Gatos, Saratoga School District, under $2 million was like 3 homes. Right, I mean, that's, you get out of the school district, that changes. So there is a flight to that quality or to that area. You know, in the school district, $3-4 million is selling like hotcakes. You're outside the school district, it's a long haul.
And I apologize for being so San Francisco-centric or North Bay-centric. If it's 2 million or
We
under...
will forgive you, it's
Thank
okay.
you. If it's 2 million or under, it stays on the market for 1 second and it's gone. You're saying that the same thing happens here, but it's by specific region and city. Okay. What about 3 to 10? Anybody?
I'll start with that. That's one hell of a spread. I don't know about you guys. 3 to 10 is huge. So at least in my area, Los Gatos, Saratoga, 3 to 5 is still pretty healthy. Good areas, good qualities are selling. For us, breaking that 5 to 7 is a challenge.
It is.
That's in Los Gatos, Saratoga. If you're to spend $5, $7, $10 million, they're migrating north. You're part of the world.
Arthur?
It's true. Actually, those are 2 different clients. So that 5 to 7 in our market, in Atherton, that's a starting price point in the Atherton area. In Woodside, things have slowed down a little bit, but I put the property on the market at $9 million 3 weeks ago, and it sold right away. So good properties still sell.
I think it's so, this is where our market is so driven by the accuracy of pricing. And so I think that's where it's so important that we're informing our sellers and getting really accurate pricing out there. You're right, anything, I mean, even in the 10, even in the 25 million range, if it's priced correctly or priced well, it's gonna pop. So the right house will go if it's priced well.
Say?
I agree.
Sorry, I'm going to say something. Again, I apologize for being San Francisco-centric. 3 to 10 up there is sitting, not moving as fast.
It's a little crowded. There are a lot of homes on the market in that
In that price range.
Not in the 3, but in our market, it's probably 5 to 7.
All right.
Whereas there's a little more time.
Let's go 10 and above. Let's go heavy. What's happening with the heavy problem? George?
So down Los Gatos, over 10, it's a struggle. It has to be a very special home, because we're talking about, it's land value is a lot of it, right? So an acre for us is 3-4 million. An acre in Atherton is 7, 8, 9, 10 million. So the price point just starts different. The 7 or 8, there's a few out there, but they're slow. They're so specific. The person built their dream home, and now you gotta go buy their dream home, and they don't want your dream home, they want their own.
Inside the territories that you're familiar with, where are the hot regions? Where are the hot cities? Where are the hot markets? Nancy, start with you.
Oh, geez. I definitely still think that we're seeing hot Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, Mountain View, hot.
What's cold?
I think you're seeing colder, like in Hillsborough, right? I think you're seeing communities that are not as desirable by the younger generation. So walkability scores are super important, right? Public transportation is super important. So again, those cities that are more protected, gated, bigger, sprawling, those are not as hot.
Ron, the same question to you. What markets are hot? What markets are cold?
Exactly what she said. I think anything that's close to Facebook, Google, that's what's moving, because they want the walkability, they want it all right outside their doors. So the condos, we're seeing first-time home buyers. First house, $1.5 million. They're buying condos for $1.5 million. Like there's no tomorrow. So it's because they want that ease of being able to go out their door, be able to go to a store, go to a restaurant, and walk right to work.
But Rhonda, be regional market specific. Are there any, I mean, you guys are lending money. Where are you lending a lot of money? It's
in all of it's Sunnyvale, it's Mountain View. We are still seeing some stuff out of Los Gatos. San Jose's picking up quite a bit right now. Fremont, and you've got Toll Brothers putting in that massive, it's close to I think 1,000 condos. It's like its own city right off of 680. All starting at $1 million over at first time home buyers.
The same question.
So the secondary markets in the past are now the primary markets in terms of desirability.
Such as?
Redwood City, San Carlos, Belmont, all these schools. And so people are shunning Menlo Park because they're saying, that's a bunch of old people, I don't want to live there. So a lot of younger people, they're moving to San Carlos because they feel like there are a lot of like-minded people. So obviously the affordability plays into that, and the excellent schools in both Burlingame and San Carlos play into that as well.
George, same question.
You know, I think it's what's happened, especially in the South County, is that as the economy's booming, we have more traffic, and the commutes are getting longer. So the further away you are from the work base, the Facebooks, the Googles, and all that, you go to South San Jose, you go to Almaden Valley. Almaden Valley's beautiful. I got some clients going out there. I don't know, man. It takes me half an hour just to get to the freeway, and then another hour on the freeway, both ways. So it's a distance issue for the job base.
Say.
Pockets within San Jose that have really good schools are on fire. So
It's all about the schools.
It's all about the schools.
And then also, I want to add to that, even pockets of San Jose that are getting, that are developed. So like Willow Glen right now with Google and the acquisition of land that Google has made, and Willow Glen now being, jokingly referred to as Google Glen, right? You're going to see Willow Glen take off. Yeah.
Nancy, can I stay with you? We're hearing rumors, we're picking up trend lines that as South Bay, Southern area becomes overpriced, they can get better value in the East Bay. They can get almost, I don't want to say 2 to 1, but they can get a lot for the dollar up there that they can. I'm talking about Lafayette, Orinda, Montclair, etc. Are you picking up any of those vibes and we're losing them down there to better value up there? And I didn't say San Francisco, East Bay.
Yeah, and I think that's been a trend for all along. It's been the South Santa Clara County, people go for a better value. They go to the East Bay for better value, but it all comes down to commutes. And the Sonoma Grade, especially with the construction on the Sonoma Grade right now, I don't think we're seeing the flee to the East Bay that we used to see. And South Santa Clara County has slowed as far as days on market, for sure. And I think some of that is just those outlying areas, those commute areas are always the ones, as the market cools or normalizes, stabilizes, they're the ones to see the impact first.
Say, you would say something?
Yeah, I would add to that. 510 has slowed down quite a bit. A lot of the techies, so we have 237, 101, 280, 85, all the arteries that drive up. Now as Google coming to San Jose, so everybody bought in San Jose. Then you have the central pocket of San Jose, it's all industrial. It has bad schools, crime rate is high, but yet it jumped up so much, it retracted by it. So that's retracted, right? So you asked which pockets, Cambrian is great. Almaden is still performing at a certain price point, but the ultra high, it's dead, it's not moving. Los Gatos is great, 95124, with really good schools, it's performing well. So when you look at that, and the buyer's saying, I don't have to travel up to 880. I can actually stay and compromise on certain things. I'm in San Jose. Google's coming. BART's coming. All these things are coming. So there are a lot of hopes. Exactly.
Okay. You want to say something, Angela? Okay. IPOs. Some IPOs this year, more IPOs next year. We were told that it was going to flood the market with money. Say, did it flood the market with money? Not for me. Not for you? No.
Not really. We've had a few, but it's not like, most of it's seasoned. They've already been in some place 5, 6, 7 years or vested. It's not this instant pop.
I'm more excited about IPA than IPO right now. Because it really hasn't affected
You haven't
us.
done it at all.
No.
Nancy,
I agree, no.
Rhonda, any pick up any signs?
Nothing really on the IPO side. I will say though, from our end, from a lending perspective, we're continuing to see a lot of the new people that have gone to work for the tech firms primarily that are getting restricted stock options are leveraging that for their buying power. Those are now their down payments, their nest eggs that they're using. And we've been seeing that, a big pickup in that over the last couple of years.
Pam, I just want to confirm one notion in my mind. In listening to you, what I heard, the two headlines I heard were that schools are still absolutely vital, yes?
Critical.
Absolutely critical. Okay, who has the best school districts that you're aware of in your regions?
I mean, I would go right down the peninsula. You can Palo Alto, you can go to Mountain View, Saratoga, Los Gatos, and parts of Elmwood Valley, parts, Leland High School.
Anything to add to that?
Wherever I'm selling this.
They just came out with Los Gatos, Saratoga, came out as, what number was it? I think it was number 1. Yeah, that came out today, didn't it? Yesterday. Just saying, go Wildcats.
And I think the subjective also, as far as what's best, that Palo Alto is known as having the best school district. But I find people avoiding Palo Alto for that reason. They want a more well-rounded environment for their kids.
And the second headline I heard was commutes, that they're starting really to worry about 1 hour, hour and a half commutes, yes? That's, everybody saying the same thing?
Universal,
Universal.
absolutely.
So if those are two galactic issues that are affecting the buyer-seller, are there any other of that significance? Are those the two
I
biggest?
think those are the two biggest, commutes and schools.
Okay.
And after that, personal.
Let's,
I think condition of the property also drives it. A lot of flippers are actually squeezing $20,000 to $50,000 more on an average property when they deck it out. If it looks like the Tesla, it's moving. Right? If it looks like a Pinto, well, it's getting maybe $100,000 below fair market value. So if it's decked out, it's getting more, and it's actually moving out faster.
Did you see Pinto?
I also think that today's buyers and sellers too are looking at the new easing up of the ADU. Those laws coming down, that's been huge. In that people are looking at the ability to add an ADU to a lot. Can I convert a garage or a shed? What can I do, right, to add some desirability to this lot? And especially with some of these communities that maybe had homeowners associations that had anti-ADU rules, that's now all overridden. And so that's a big factor today.
that's a great point, Nancy, and we're picking up the same signals as well. The ADU route is just monumental.
It's going to be huge. And you really should educate yourself as an agent on it, because I think that it's a selling point for a buyer and it's a selling point for a seller to really look at the ability to add that to a piece of property.
I want to talk about disruption, but I am not concerned about disruption from the agent perspective. I want to deal just with the client, the customer. You saw 66 agents for Compass up there. That's because there were 4 acquisitions in the last 12 months. That's why it was 66. Are your clients coming to you and saying, what's this Compass thing? Why are you being disrupted? Are you picking that up, or do they not care? Say,
I don't think they have a clue.
they don't.
They just see a sign that's black, red, blue, done.
George?
As being the Compass person in the acquisition, I think it's all right. I kind of agree to a certain point. It is the agent. The company brand matters, but it is the agent in what we do and our clientele base and everything else.
Arthur?
We're in a trust business. If people trust you, they do business with you. You can have the sleekest software out there. If they don't trust you, you don't have the business.
So they're buying the person and not the flag?
Totally, 100%.
You sure about that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Nancy?
I don't think the consumer is as obsessed as we are as an industry.
So that means what?
I don't think that the consumer cares as
They
much
just
as
don't
we
care.
do.
Do they even know what a compass is? I'm asking the panel, not the audience.
You know, it's funny because I was an agent for a number of years, and, I really tried to brand myself to be that trusted advisor, right, in my sphere and in the town I was in. And so, I'd be at social events, and as you all are, and people come up and house the market, I'm buying lettuce in the grocery store, house the market. And I can honestly say this, and I'm not saying this because I'm blue, but I can say that I don't get the compass question. I don't get the, hey, tell me about this compass. It hasn't come up for me, personally.
Okay. I'm going to move quickly because we're running out of time here, and I want to get the leading one, that final leading 100 list. Foreign investment. Is the money still coming in from Pacific Rim and China and that part of the world as much as it was 5 years ago?
Not as much.
Not as much.
Really gotten quiet.
The well is dry.
The well is dry. Say,
Not from San Jose.
what are you hearing, Rhonda?
It's definitely slow. Obviously, HSBC being one of the leading international banks, we still deal with a lot of international clients. That's our niche, if you will. There are definitely concerns relative to the immigration policies that are going on. It's much more difficult for people to get their L1, H1s. We're seeing a shift of a lot of those individuals going to different countries that are a little bit more flexible relative to employment, because if you don't get your green card, you have to leave the U.S. So there's a lot of concerns around that right now. In general, we have seen a slowdown. Coincidentally, we are actually now starting to see a bit of a pickup coming out of Hong Kong, specifically the UK, Canada, as well, but Hong Kong specifically, given to the turmoil that's going on right now, we are seeing a pickup in that area.
This is a question to Nancy and to Arthur and to Zaid. I thought Compass did a brilliant thing with its concierge program.
You cut me out of this
Right.
question, huh?
I'm trying to be agnostic here. 3%, what is it, George? 3% of the listing price?
Are you asking me now?
I'm asking you now.
Oh, let's see here. And by the way, they may not know who Compass was, they will know who Compass will be.
So,
They didn't know who Intero was, or Sotheby's, or Gold Bears.
All right.
You got a little jab in, I'll get a little jab back. So no worries either, but it's right, it's 5%.
That's what I want to know.
5%.
Okay. So, Arthur, to you, are they coming to you and saying, I want the concierge program?
Yes, and apparently our company has responded with their own program where
But are they coming to you and asking?
no one's asked me. It's something that I do on my own.
Zaid, are they asking you?
I don't think that news has gotten down to San Jose because the price point is only so it's not worth it for them to come down, but no, it's not.
Nancy?
So, yes, and it is primarily more north. So, I'll give you kudos, Compass Concierge did make an impact.
Brilliant.
In that consumers we had very big listing agents of ours coming and saying, oh my gosh, I have this longtime client that I just lost because I wasn't willing to make this kind of investment. I think that agents, though, certain agents for years have been doing their own concierge programs. And again, what Compass Concierge did, and by the way, we launched one on October 7th, just saying. But what it is doing is we're really trying to take this off the back of an agent of having to make that business decision, and I think I made that.
Two final questions. Low-hanging fruit. Let me rephrase it. I write you a check for $3 million tonight. And I say, go spend it. It's got to be on residential property, and it's for your benefit only. Where would you spend that $3 million?
As near as you can next to Google Campus.
And what would you buy with that $3 million?
So there's an opportunity zone. It exists today. They were trying to develop downtown San Jose. So that's a little south of 280 going up to Taylor. It's going to be all residential properties. And if you buy it, it'll be tax-free after 10 years.
He's a single family.
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Same question, George.
Even though it's on the town that I live in, I buy a flat acre in Saratoga for $3 million, and the main reason is from a commute pattern standpoint, you can go up the peninsula, you can go to downtown San Jose, and you got the schools. So that's what I would do.
Excellent. Arthur.
Downtown Menlo Park, because of two reasons. One is The schools are great. Second is, no matter where I'm going against the traffic.
Nancy?
It's so funny. I'm like mesmerized by their answers. I think the place to buy today, if I had $3 million to plunk down, is absolutely in the opportunity zone. I think that is just the hot place. And also, it has to be within reasonable commute. And meaning, it's going to be along one of the Caltrains lines. You're going to see so many more people, these young people coming to the valley that do not want to get in their cars. And that's going to be the hot place to buy.
Panel, I want you to think about this question. I'm going to come back to you with this question. What are the risk, if there was one risk factor for South Bay, for this area, what would that risk factor be in your marketplace, in your business, in the next 24 months? Hold tight. Questions from the audience. Any questions from the audience about that? No questions? Ma'am?
Has anyone made any investments in these markets?
Has anybody
Maybe
made
not
any
over 3
investments?
million, but just in general.
Any?
Right now?
Ah, you
I would buy after March of next year.
Okay, because I was also
Who's gonna buy
looking
it?
at the downtown San Jose weekend, and it doesn't get somebody just set them, so I'm asking you the same question.
The reason I said March, just because something will happen next year. Whether it's politically, stock market, something will happen next year that will cause this, we're due. This.
Good or bad? Bad.
But that doesn't mean it's a housing crisis,
No, I,
right? But we're just gonna say there are gonna be more opportunities. Right? We're talking about opportunities.
okay. Yes, ma'am. What was the tax?
So if you hold on to it after 10 years, you're gonna pay state taxes.
Opportunity zones.
Can somebody, who wants to explain opportunity zone?
How much you know? How much you know?
You go for it.
Nancy, you go
You brought it
ahead.
up. You brought it up.
I think you know. You can make it.
Nancy?
An opportunity zone is basically, they're across the country, and the federal government has looked at these areas as areas of growth opportunity. And what they've said is if you make an investment in an opportunity zone, there's going to be a limit capital gains for it. And you can look it up, go to opportunity zones, Google it, and you'll get an explanation of what it is, and it'll show you by map the areas. And there are some great opportunity zones within the Sullivan Valley.
And I can add that in San Francisco Bayshore area is an opportunity zone, and people are starting to crowd in. They can see where the money's being made. Question? San Mateo area, in what sense? San Mateo, anybody? Arthur?
San Mateo is a lovely place. I like it for a couple of reasons. Number one is it's been really, really sleepy for the last 10 years or so, and it's one of the few, and it's kind of like being pushed from Burlingame and from south, San Carlos and Belmont. And I think because of the size of it, because of that really cute downtown area and its proximity to Hillsborough, I think it's a fantastic place to invest for the future.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone know if there's an invested on sell investment property and cannot use it to one because it's a short period of time? Is there any other better way to allow that investor to extend the game?
Anybody?
So I'm not a CPA or an attorney to answer that question. So you asked if someone did a 1031 exchange and their time limit ran out, and could not find an exchange property.
And an alternative to the 1031.
1031, so they've started at 1031. There are these programs, I'm not an attorney or CPA, I'm not sure how they all work, where you actually 1031 into like a REIT or like a mutual fund of some sort. And you can do that. All the details about that I don't know, how long you have to hold it for I don't know, but there is another source for that. But it gets pulled into some fund, I think it's a 10-year hold period, something of that nature.
You guys can talk offline too. I'll take one more question. Anybody going once, going twice? Panel. Was there a hand? No. Panel. Going forward, next 24 months, what would be the risk factor for this area? And conversely, what would be the low-hanging fruit factor for this area? Zane, start with you.
I think the suburbs, as more millennials are wanting to be next to, I want to live, shop, work, get a haircut and everything else downstairs. I'll take Uber to go visit mom and dad. I think being next to transportation is a hell of an opportunity, but being outside, waiting for the Gen Xers and the people that are having kids, I think past the 24 months, we're gonna have an issue with over construction of condos, 1,000 off of 280, right? And that's not gonna stop in downtown San Jose or anywhere we can build. I think that's when millennials come of age of saying, I need to have a backyard for my kids. We're not Manhattan. We are going to go and get some soil. So what are we gonna do with all that inventory? So I think that's it.
George?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next 12, 24 months, I think our biggest issue is politics. Because it's just the stability of our market, whatever that may be. And if we have really bad stuff happen, I think there'll be a flight to the A areas will survive. I think the B and the C areas will be affected. So, right, so a condo in East San Jose, facing the freeway, bad commute, is going to get affected. If you're in the A areas, I think you'll survive that bad news. And secondly, I agree, I think we're going to see already seen in San Francisco right now, a lot of condos hit the market is getting sold. Around the world, and in Dubai and Australia, they build like crazy. And these build cycles take 10 years. And also, all these units are online. Downtown San Jose right now, at the Fairmont in San Jose, costs more to stay at the one in San Francisco because there's no other luxury hotels. 2 brand new hotels are going to be built, 800 rooms. So maybe you can get a little cheaper in about 24 months. So I think that will change.
I think our market's always been the last one in and the first one out, and that's what I think is going to happen in terms of recessions go. We will be the last one in and the first one out because of the strength of our economy. I think if you want to know what's going to happen here, you got to look at what's going on in secondary and tertiary cities like Las Vegas, Phoenix, Boise, Austin, Portland, and I think those cities will go way before us. And
We'll go.
We'll go down before we do, and I think if we do feel a recession, I think we're still in the bubble because our job market is so strong. There's really no fundamental reason why there should be a recession. So I look at those other cities. If they go down first, then we may follow, but not as severe.
Wanda?
I think it's a few different things. I think the economy's already starting to show signs of slowing. I think the political environment that we've got going on right now, I think the trade wars that are going on right now, which are on pause right now, but come December, there could be some challenges with that as well too. So I think those are all going to be variables.
Nancy?
Just to take a little different stab at this, because you're all here as agents wondering what am I going to do to set up my business for the next 2 years, and what are the risks to my business? And I think the things that you have to think about in your business today is that you can't do business like you did 5 years ago. You need to be where your consumer, where the client is thinking of real estate, right? So, the fact is they have, your face on the grocery cart, they put their kid's bottom on top of your face, right? That's not where they're thinking about buying or selling a house. You need to rethink your marketing strategy of how you're getting out there. And one of the fears is that we're all relying on who we know. And let's face it, how many of you have had somebody in your sphere sell with someone else? This is all now, our consumer, our sphere of influence is now really getting pickier, and they're interviewing. They want to know that they are choosing that trusted person to sell their house. So the risk in the next 24 months is, are you going to change how you're doing your marketing to really be able to take off and grow, or are you kind of set in the ways that you've had all along? And I think the low-hanging fruit, is really, again, getting your information in the eyeballs of those buyers and sellers. What are they doing when they first wake up? They're checking social media. They're looking at their email, right? Are you there, right? Are they checking their mail every day? Who goes to the mailbox every single day anymore, right? You really have to rethink how you're marketing yourself.
Okay. Walter, you're going to come up and do the leading 100 individuals. Stay, it'll take 4.5 minutes. It's very intriguing. As Walter's coming up, would you please put your hands together for our panel? Thank you.